Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to game happiness, then do we have the Solve for Happy show for you. Today I'll be talking with Mo Gawdat, the Chief Business Officer for Google X and the author of an incredibly touching and powerful new book and treatise on happiness, Solve for Happy. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, how to solve for happy and engineer your own path to joy. That plus we'll talk about Mo Money, Mo Miserable, 2 clicks and 2 Rolls Royces, the best way to stop a 5-year-old from crying, what in the world are moonshots, why if you're gonna play Halo, you have to set it to legendary, and who in the world is a fat hobbit? Gotcha.
Okay, that's an introduction. I never got this introduction before, Michael, but it's expected from you. It's truly, it is the core of the book. Every one of those questions matters.
So it kind of goes without saying, but welcome to the show, Mo. Are you ready to shine?
I try not to shine, but for you, I will try my absolute best.
All right, and a mighty woohoo! So
it is.
We're going to dive into the core. We're going to kind of jump around a little bit first. So I want to kind of set the stage for things. So first off, you're the Chief Business Officer at Google X. What is Google X?
Google X is that. It's the best place on earth. It's part of Google or Alphabet now where we try to innovate to solve big problems that affect the lives of billions of people. We use computer science and latest breakthrough technology to try and identify not a product but a problem, and then try to solve it in a way that is radical enough to reinvent the solution altogether. So, the most well-known products would be things like, the self-driving car, for example, which was an attempt to improve the safety of driving. And, the auto industry has done incredibly well in terms of, airbags and all of the safety features of cars. But you realize that one of the biggest reasons, actually the absolute biggest reason for accidents to start is human error. So by having a self-driving car, you eliminate the reason for the accident, not reduce the risk when you have an accident. And so these are the kinds of approaches that we take to solving problems. Normally we call them moonshots.
Awesome. And what I like so much, you were mentioning problem and product a minute ago, is you say that, and maybe you can explain what it means, we fall in love with the problem, not the product.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest challenges we got with capitalism, if you want, is that we, there are ways for people to build another photo sharing app that is slightly better and make money on it, right? And if the goal is to make money, then you make money, but you don't always solve the problem. You don't always make people's lives better. And so to fall in love with the problem truly is the key word, because our world, as advanced as we've made it, still is full of problems. We have so many problems in our world, and perhaps even more so when you live in the West and you're not aware of the problems around the world that you miss them. But then the idea is, if you focus on the problem, surprisingly, the money will follow even more. So X and Google in general is not a charity. It's a place where we try to solve big problems. And when we really do well and people depend on our technology and like it and enjoy it and use it once or twice a day, then there is always going to be a way to be successful in terms of also being profitable, so that you can solve the next problem and the next problem. And so it's a very different approach. The approach is find the problem, focus on the problem, and when you manage to solve it, then you've earned the right to be profitable.
Awesome. It makes sense. And the last piece on it is you talk about the X being a 10X of an exponential gain or an exponential change, and you say that requires a blank slate approach.
Absolutely. So the idea is, if you ever accept incremental innovation, incremental improvements on your approach to a problem, all you're going to get is incremental innovation. And incremental innovation, unfortunately, is always guided by legacy. It's like, if you're a car company, or if you're a software company and you have an investment that's generating hundreds of millions or billions of dollars for you, you want to protect that. And so you want to incrementally improve it in a way that doesn't shake the boat too much. To really solve some of the problems we face on Earth today, I think we have to sometimes ignore all legacy and think with a blank slate. So ask yourself, if we were going to invent a car for the first time now, not in the late 1800s, how would you invent that car today with all that we know today, with the problem that we found today around our road networks and transport abilities?
I love it. And I want to go from there, and I want to take us back in time, not to the 1800s, to a lot sooner than that, but I want to take us back to when you were 8, because your way of solving a problem, this year-long approach that you can tell us about, was in a sense a way of gaining some exponential gains.
Yeah, I grew up in Egypt, so I know we take it for granted, but you'll be surprised how difficult access to knowledge and information when I was a young child was. I mean, before Google and the internet, all that I had in Cairo was one book fair a year. That is it, 4 days. I mean, there were bookshops, but they had the commercial books. If you wanted to specialize and understand something, there was that one book fair that I needed to go to every year. Mm-hmm. And since age 8, I used to go and spend literally the 4 days. I would spend the whole day trying to collect as many books as I can on a specific topic, and then go back home, read a little, sleep a little, and then rush the next day to buy more books, because that's my only chance for the year. And, it's sort of a weird thing to do when everyone around you is playing football, right? But to me, it was my need to understand and also the reality, accepting the reality that there was one way to do it. Mm-hmm. And that became my style of solving problems or learning or understanding everything from then onwards. Anytime I faced a problem in my life, literally all I did was I read myself out of it.
I love it. In fact, so let's fast forward. I don't know if we need to talk about the college time at all, although you did meet your wife in college.
I did, yeah. I met the most wonderful woman on earth in college, and she's amazing in every way. Has bad taste in men, so she accepted me, and then we ended up in a place where we had 2 wonderful kids who literally lit up our life. I mean, we had everything we could wish for. Just 4 years after graduation, life was super easy.
Awesome. So let's go first off to 1995 and moving to Dubai. And what was that like?
Yeah, Dubai is, if you want, the Google of all nations. It was fast moving. It was visionary. It was, growing really, really fast. And it had, endless opportunities, if you want. And for someone like me who wanted to make a difference, who wanted to learn, who wanted to, to grow, it was basically the land of opportunity, if you want. And the problem with Dubai, of course, as I mentioned in Solve for Happy, is that because of the fast pace, because of the success, if you want, it started to become a little surreal. Even if you go today to a normal, down-to-earth shopping mall in Dubai, you're probably going to park between a Rolls-Royce and a Lamborghini. And this is how it is. There is wealth everywhere. It's tax-free. It is a very, it is Vegas as a whole city of life, and a way of life, if you want, in terms of being able to achieve anything that you want. And so, surprisingly, that didn't work for me. When I actually went to Dubai, instead of cherishing all of the opportunity that I was given and all of the blessings that I was given, I started to compare myself to the rest of the city and feel that I'm falling short. And because of that, I started to fall into a spiral of constantly feeling unhappy. Surprisingly, the more life blessed me, the more unhappy I became. I mean, my wonderful wife, my wonderful kids, good job, everything that you can think of that a young 28, 29-year-old would dream of was given to me. And the result was, instead of gratitude, it was unhappiness.
Oh, and I joked about it at the beginning. At one point, you talk about it in the book. You literally a couple clicks of the mouse, and I'm a car nut myself, but a car nut in remission. And you purchased a couple classic. And when you say classic Rolls Royces, those are some pretty substantial price tags. But it didn't make you feel happy.
Yeah, you see, this was the turning point actually. So look, here I am, late 20s, early 30s. Successful and totally depressed, right? And you know how the spiral goes, right? You buy a phone, it doesn't make you happy. You buy another phone, it doesn't make you happy. You buy a more expensive phone, it doesn't make you happy. You buy a more gimmicky phone, and this is what, because we have been taught somehow that there is something that you can purchase or acquire or attain, or a holiday you can go to that will solve your problem and you'll find happiness. So I think that was the peak at the point where I started to realize that, nothing I can do, nothing I can ever acquire would ever make me happy, right? And this really was the point where I started to tell myself that, no, that's it. I need to solve this problem differently, because it's obvious that material things are never going to make us happy.
And so what was the mindset that shifted, and how do you decide to what I'll call game happiness?
I think the breakout point for me was when I started to solve the problem differently. As we started the conversation, of course, when I started to find myself miserable, I couldn't have the option for therapy. I basically read myself out of the problem. I bought every book I can find on the topic and started to read myself out of it, right? But I couldn't get it. And that's really the most interesting part of it, is that for my brain, the spiritual practice part of happiness was not working for me. Even though I'm spiritual myself, it just couldn't translate. And so 2.5 years into my research, I started with a very interesting no, it's not discovery. It's just, maybe a revival of a main concept that we tend to forget. And I as an engineer, you will tell yourself, if a machine breaks down, you will start to ask the question, when did it break down? Was it always performing well? Is it a design error or something went wrong, right? And so I looked back and I realized that I was always happy until I started to engage heavily in life. By age 23, 24, I was the happiest man ever. And life wasn't what it became afterwards. It's like I didn't have enough to eat sometimes. I didn't have a great job. I didn't have the love of my life. I didn't have all of that, but I was always happy, right? And I kept going back in time. And of course, when do you start to be happy? You're born happy, right? We're all born happy, and then we grow out of happiness somehow. Some of us at earlier times and some of us later in life, but the default setting of all of us is that we're happy. And with that, I started to say, okay, hold on. So you have a machine that works well, right? We mess it up somehow. That's actually an interesting engineering problem. Let's solve this as engineers. Let's find out what broke in the machine, or maybe what changed in the environment around me, so that I can find a way to fix the machine in a way, or update the machine in a way that it can continue to be happy in the current environment, right? And when I switched my mind from trying to just receive what was being told to me in the happiness literature I could find, to trying to solve it as an engineering problem, I think that's when things started to move the right way.
Awesome. So let's go from there. And you said something which is the perfect segue. You said we are all born happy. So
absolutely.
I want to talk about one of, if not your greatest teacher. Can you tell us about your son Ali?
Yeah, I had, as I said, I was blessed with so much. I was blessed with 2 children who were the yin and yang of life, which truly made an incredible environment for someone like me to enjoy life, but also to learn. So I had Ali, who's my elder child, who was literally born a Zen monk. He was totally peaceful, always calm, extremely wise, and extremely happy. He was always happy. It's incredible. And then I had Aya, who's now 23, and Aya was that energy, that fire, that creativity, that fun element. She was the one that took us to Disney and said, we have to go on every ride, right? And so between those two, I was trying to find happiness on the line in the middle. Ali specifically, because I was struggling with unhappiness, was truly a role model. He was, especially in his teens, by 11 to 16, I think was the peak of his wisdom on the topic of self-love, on confidence, on happiness. And so I would do my research, and find something. And then I would go to Ali and say, Ali, I found something. And he would go like, yeah, you should have asked me. And I'm it's like, okay, thank you for that. And, and I would explain it to him. But I would always learn the wisdom from him, and then the engineering elements, the machine, the equations, the how the machine works bits, I would work on myself. And I think together, between myself and my approach and Ali and his approach, we ended up with a model which was really, really ambitious to start. So when I started to work on my issue of unhappiness, I gave myself a very weird target. I said, okay, you know what? There is an operating system up here, right? Something's going wrong with that operating system. Maybe there is a way where I can write, 15 lines of code, or at least have a flow chart that I can run through every time I feel unhappy, and then I will feel happy again, right? I know it sounds weird now, but we actually found it. We actually found a way to literally whenever. So I have not yet found a way to stop us from being unhappy, right? As I write in Solve for Happy, unhappiness almost is a survival mechanism. It needs to be there, right? But when you become unhappy, I now have a flow chart that I just go through, and sometimes it takes me an hour, sometimes it takes me a minute, and then the unhappiness goes away. So between in the 12 years of research, by the end of it, I think we found that model together, and it was an incredible gift to have Ali as part of it.
Awesome. And we're going to get to that flow chart specifically for people who are wanting to know that. Bear with us a few minutes. Let us head down this road a little bit more. What was the tattoo he wore on his back?
Ali had a tattoo when he was 16, and it was the one thing he hid from me for a few years, actually. And
wow.
Yeah, he hid it from me for a very strange reason. He was such a kind young man, and at the time he felt that he bought it or had it using my money without taking my permission for it, which, by the way, was not true. I mean, the reality is he used his allowance to get it, right? And he knew I would approve of it, but somehow he felt uncomfortable that he got it. But his tattoo was truly the summary of Ali's philosophy in life. He wrote on his back that the gravity of the battle means nothing to those at peace. And he lived that concept. So whatever happened meant nothing to him. Teenage years become difficult, and Ali at a point in time decided to grow dreadlocks. And so in the Middle East, dreadlocks are very, very unusual, and people will actually attack him almost all the time. And he would go through it with total peace, a big smile on his face when people, tell him, oh, this looks weird, and it makes you look like a girl or whatever, which is, sometimes pushy in the Middle East. He would go like, oh, thank you. That's very good advice. I'm going to think about that, right? With a big smile on his face, and nothing would shake his peace. And in a very interesting way, I think probably of all things I've learned from Ali, the gravity of the battle means nothing to those at peace is probably my biggest learning. Amazing.
Where did he end up going to school, and what was it like knowing he'd be so far away?
Ali decided to, he experimented a couple of times and ended up in Northeastern University in Boston. Mm-hmm. And, surprisingly, I loved it. I mean, in a very interesting way, we had a reasonably privileged life in Dubai, and his reasoning for going away was, Papa, I need to learn life as it really is. I need to, starve at the end of the month and have to make ends meet, and I need to find my own place and struggle a little bit, and to be able to go through life in the reality of life, I think, was one of his aims, and he did amazingly well. He actually never ever, now that I recall, perhaps only once, never ever asked, at the end of the month to say, Papa, I ran out of budget, or I'm struggling with something. He actually made it work, and he made it work in a way where he also made it happy. So he covered his own expenses, but also took care of his friends sometimes, and they took care of him. He built that wonderful sort of little community of let's just make this work together.
Beautiful. So in talking about asking, one of the interesting things is during his last year there, what he began asking people about.
Ali, in the last weeks of his life, unfortunately, we lost Ali in 2014. In the last 6 weeks of his life, he just asked people constantly one single question. Everyone he met will tell us that he spent the entire conversation saying, "What happens to us when we die?" And I know it sounds a little unprovable from a scientific point of view, but not everything in life is scientific. But somehow I feel that he knew he was going to leave. And I actually recall very well that my father as well, if you think of his actions before he left our planet, he also knew somehow. And Ali constantly asked. And what was amazing, again, just to give us the peace before he left, is that the last time he spoke to a friend, her name was Dima, and she spoke about her view of what happens after we die, and his answer was, "Well, I guess we will only know when we get there, but I'm optimistic," which was a tremendous gift for someone who lost his child to know a couple of days later that, in his last conversation with a friend, he said that he was optimistic about going to the other side. And so, he was okay to leave somehow. And I know it sounds weird, but he was fine.
I've got kind of goosebumps. It sounds like he called you from Northeastern in his last days, and he said he wanted to come visit quite quickly.
Yeah, I think it's part of what he felt as well. He said he feels compelled to come and spend time with us, which was unexpected, because at the time Ali had planned a tour around North America with his friends. They had everything planned. They had a car rented and everything. And then he said, "Well, I just have those 2 weeks before the tour starts, and I really, really, really need to come and meet you guys." And he did. And when he came, it was, I think, the biggest blessing ever once again, because before he left, he sat us down, and Ali didn't speak much. When he spoke, he was either super funny, so you had to listen because you would crack up, or he was really wise. So what he said was something that you would cherish for a long time. And so that time was the only time where he spoke at length, 40 minutes. And he spoke about how much he loved us and how much he appreciated having us in his life. And, we literally teared up, because he would go like, you taught me this, and this has made me the person that I am, and I'm super grateful for it. And then he asked each of us to do something differently. And again, with a smile, like he always was, he basically sat back in his seat and he said, "Papa, I know this sounds weird coming from your son and all, but I really want you to change the way you're going about life." And I'm like, "Okay, Mr. Yoda, what do you have in mind?" and he was spot on, as always. He basically said, "Papa, I know that you've always been passionate about making the world a better place," which I have been very fortunate working for Google to have actually achieved reasonably, because if you launch Google in 50 languages or more than 50 languages, you've really given access to information to so many people, billions of people around the world, right? But he said, "I want you to never stop doing that. I want you to never stop working, but I want you to start doing things that depend on your heart a little more often," which is very unlike the executive businessman, engineer that I am. I always chase targets and, use my intellect, if you want, to achieve things that make a difference to the world. But Ali wanted me to do something that depends on my heart. And of course, as you can imagine, when he died and we were okay, of course we were not happy, but we were calm and peaceful, which in my definition of happiness, that feeling of peace really is what we're searching for. It's not the fun and excitement. And so when we were that peaceful and every one of my friends said you should write your model down, I frantically started to work on writing it down, because I realized Ali was not there anymore to help me, but because I wanted to fulfill my son's last wish. And his last wish was basically do something that depends on your heart that changes the world. And so my 10 million happy mission is my attempt to fulfill that ask from him.
Beautiful. We're going to get there very shortly. Would you mind sharing at all a little bit of what happened and then what things were like afterwards?
Ali left. Ali left unexpectedly. He was diagnosed with an appendectomy. He was prescribed an appendectomy, an appendix inflammation, and it's the easiest operation known to mankind. But unfortunately we're humans, so errors happen. In Ali's case, 5 errors happened in sequence, and each of them was preventable, and each of them alone wouldn't have taken him away. But having 5 in a row and actually fixing some of them improperly is basically, in 4 hours, Ali was no longer with us. And of course, as you can imagine, it's the most painful thing a father can ever, or a parent can ever go through. It just resets your understanding of life and everything in it. And as I always say, until today, I always feel that some part of me is missing, right? And I ask people, who so generously now talk to me about their losses as well after the book came out. And, it's the same. The pain never goes away, right? But we did not suffer. And there is a difference between pain and suffering. Understand that. The pain happens to you from outside you. It comes to you from the world. The suffering we generate for our own selves, right? I could let myself spend days thinking that I should have driven him to a different hospital, right? That thought would absolutely make me miserable for the rest of my life, and it would make no difference to the world whatsoever, okay? And so we were not, again, I don't lie. I mean, at the beginning, we had those thoughts very heavily, and we were very, very, unhappy. But 4 hours into losing Ali, surprisingly, something happened, and we just found ourselves totally peaceful. The model worked. And so when people would come to Ali's memorial, they would be the ones crying, and we would be the ones, dressed in colors and, hugging them and saying, hey guys, you just don't get it. Let us explain to you our model of happiness, our model of death and life. And they would smile and they would calm down and actually would laugh out loud, which was amazing. It was so Ali's energy all over the place. I mean, our house was full of his pictures, smiling always, and people were sharing stories of him, and everyone was like in such a positive mood, which was amazing. And so the mission was clear. Write this down, because you could probably help more people than the few hundred or 1,000 people that came to his memorial.
What do you think Ali would have said if you had asked him how to handle losing him?
Yeah, I think that was one of the turning points in terms of trying to handle losing him. I mean, when you have someone like Ali in your life, when faced with a problem like losing a loved one, the first person you go to is Ali, right? And so of course, part of the struggle was he was no longer there to help us out, and I had to imagine in my head, which I write about in the afterword of the book. I had to imagine in my head what would Ali say if I told him, Ali, how do I handle losing you? And he basically would have said, Papa, I already left. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it. And, and I can easily remember him saying this many times in life, but I would imagine him saying it on this occasion where he would say, so make use of it, make the best out of it. I have to say that he would probably have said, yeah, I'm gone. So just be happy and make it work.
Beautiful. 17 days after he passed away, you're on fire. You decide to write the book. It can't have been an easy point. What was your goal? You talked about 10 million. What was your goal and hope with this book as you dove in with all you had?
I had no target. Believe it or not, I was just writing because I could not stop writing. You should just understand this. I've just lost my best friend, my son, my coach. He told me to do something, and I had no imagination how far that would go at the time. I was just literally waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning, Michael, and writing, right? I wrote between 3 to 8 hours a day, every single day for 4.5 months. And as I said, I mean, I would literally wake up midnight or 3 a.m. and write for an hour, and then wake up the next morning and look at this stuff that I wrote, and I'm like, man, this is good. Who wrote this, right? It's really, really interesting. The experience was, when authors say that it was written through me, not written by me, I would absolutely believe that. And there were nuggets of gold in what I was writing that I actually did not know I knew, right? One of my biggest, actually truly my philosophy of life now was written again at 3 a.m. I call it The Game. And it's an analogy between life and video games that was not edited a single time. So this part, even though we had 29 versions of the book, was almost written for me to use it.
Can you expand on that for people?
Life as a video game?
Yes. Yes.
Life as a video game is truly, believe it or not, is my philosophy going through life now. And I know it sounds weird coming from the chief business officer and the serious guy and all, but life truly is a video game, like it or not. I mean, in an interesting way, think of it this way. I'm a good video gamer, right? I'm serious, right? Ali was legendary. Ali was what video games were written for, right? And so when we played video games, we had a very different approach. My approach was the approach that most of us use in life, right? Which was this: I start the level, I run the shortest path to the end of the level, right? And I try to get to the end of the level and just tell myself, well done, you've achieved, right? Of course, 2 levels later, I realized I didn't collect the weapons I needed. I realized that I didn't collect the coins I needed. And most importantly, I realized I didn't collect the skills I needed to pass level 3, right? Ali, on the other hand, legendary as he is, would literally run to where the explosions and smoke are, okay? And I would shout, like, Ali, what are you doing? The end of the level is right here. Why are we running here, right? And he would go like, Papa, this is where all the fun is. Who wants to get to the end of the level? When you get to the end of the level, you stop playing. We don't want to stop playing. We want to enjoy the game, right? Mm-hmm. So in his philosophy, he would run to where the explosions are, not only because it's where the fun is, but in his own words, this is where you develop and grow. This is where you become the best gamer you can become, right? And it hit me after he left that if life, Imagine a video game where all you had to do is the video game starts, you push the forward key, and you keep it pushed for 30 minutes, and 30 minutes later the game is over. How much fun is that? It's like, seriously, that's a horrible game, right? Games are all about the challenges that come in them. And actually, when you think of life, if you think back to the most difficult parts of your life, you will think about them now and say, wow, these are the parts that made me the person that I am. These are the parts where I actually became a better gamer, right? And so in a very interesting way, I will say this even though I need to clarify, I'm not saying this because of pessimism. I'm actually saying this because of optimism. Yeah. Life will be difficult sometimes. It's bound to be difficult, not because it's trying to annoy you, and not because it's a mistake in the code. Actually, this is how the game is designed. The game is designed to be difficult because that's where all the fun is, and that's where you become a better gamer, right? When games become difficult, serious gamers don't put their controller down. They don't complain. They don't call Bungie and say, hey, Halo is too difficult. They don't do that. When the game becomes difficult, what do? We engage. We engage more. We go like, yeah, let's try this. Let's do this differently. Let's, get in and get slapped on the face twice and then fall and then maybe try it again and win, right? That's what it's all about. I think this is what life is all about. It's not about getting to the end of the level. It's about enjoying this challenge in this part of the level.
Woohoo! Woohoo!
Woohoo, indeed.
If we go back in time, I think I'm not picking on your mom at all, but there's a proverb she liked to use a lot, which kind of explains some of the underlying operating system that we're running without realizing it that prevents us from getting to that legendary status.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my mom's amazing. If you're listening, I love you. Thank you a ton for what you taught me. But like every other mom, because we love our children so much, we want to give them what I call the insurance policy. Mm-hmm. And the insurance policy is a way to go through life with the minimum possible harshness. And, what do we tell them? All of us, we tell them success. Success is what matters, right? Because if you're successful in life, you're not going to suffer in life. And if you're successful in life, you eventually, hopefully, will find happiness because you don't have the stresses of failure or need or lack or whatever that is, right? And I have to say that's absolutely wrong. I mean, so my mother would say, you work hard for a year and then you save and be frugal for a year and then you'll be happy for the rest of your life. It's based on an Arabic proverb. And of course, you can imagine that many of us work hard for 20 years and, we save and be frugal and be successful and financially independent, and we're still not happy. And of course, hard work leads to success, but success rarely ever, if at all, leads to happiness. And you can see around you tons of people who have made it on every way you can, in every path through life. They're wealthy, they're famous, they're, successful, and they're committing suicide, right? So happiness is definitely not dependent on success. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. So a lot of research will tell you that happy people are more productive and accordingly more likely to succeed. 12% specifically, 12% more productive, and so more likely to succeed. So, I followed that path for a long time, thinking that I can find my happiness in success. Surprise, surprise, of course not, right? And, the happiest moments in my life until then were the moments where I had not yet reached success.
Thank you. So let's go from there. Let's talk a little bit about the equation for happiness. How do we set up the equation for happiness?
Yeah, happiness. So a happiness equation was really, really wacky. Thinking about it now, it's like, how did I think of that, right? Here is the problem. Again, now I'm an engineer. I believe that this machine used to work very well, and now it's breaking. So I start to ask myself, okay. Just give me a minute here. How does this machine work? What is the equation that we follow that triggers happiness or triggers unhappiness? If I find that, I can fix the machine. If I don't, then I'm, shooting in the dark, basically. Now, so I couldn't find the answer. So I started to look everywhere for what is happiness, what triggers happiness, and what triggers unhappiness, and I couldn't find it, right? And so I started to do it as an engineer. I started to collect as many data points as I can of moments where I felt happy. Okay, and my ambition was, if I can plot those on a chart and find a trend line between them, right? The equation that describes this trend line is what happiness is, right? Anytime I would want to regenerate happiness, I would basically put the parameters that generate an equation on that line. Mm-hmm. Crazy, right? Anyway, at the time, I wrote down 92 points.
This is your happy list.
My happy list, right? My happy list was, I feel happy when I have a good cup of coffee. I feel happy when Ali or Aya smile. I feel happy when I learn. I feel happy when I'm in the company of wonderful people, right? And, it's like, okay, these are interesting generators of happiness, but what's common across all of them? And of course, you have to understand, you can have a good cup of coffee, but your boss is annoying you and you're not feeling happy. So a good cup of coffee alone does not make you happy. Aya could be smiling, but I'm stuck in an airport somewhere and I'm not feeling happy. So, Aya smiling alone is not enough to make me happy. And the one thing common across all the moments in your life and my life and everyone's life where we felt happy is actually really interesting. It is, you feel happy when life seems to be going your way. When life seems to be giving you your hopes and wishes and expectations, regardless of how crazy those might be sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. If you expect life to behave in a certain way and life behaves that way, you're happy, right? If, on the other hand, you expect life to behave in a certain way and life misses your expectations, you feel unhappy, right? And in that sense, happiness becomes a very, very interesting concept. Unhappiness, in that case, is a survival mechanism. Unhappiness is your brain analyzing everything around you, right? The feeling in your muscles, the soreness in your back, the weather around you if the room is a little too cold, the thing that your partner said yesterday, the worry that you have about your job tomorrow, right? And it's putting all of this together and saying, okay, if all of this meets my expectations, then there is no threat. Life is okay. And you get that peaceful feeling of, I'm happy, right? If any of those or a mix of those goes wrong, your brain literally switches on a light. It's almost as if it's on the dashboard of a car that says check engine, right? Something's wrong, right? Something's wrong. I don't care to tell you exactly what it is. I just want you to feel that unhappy feeling so that you stop whatever it is that you're doing and just start to solve the problem, because I'm so worried now, there is a threat. That's your brain telling you something's wrong. And so your brain, my brain, and everyone's brain is going through that happiness equation tens of thousands of times every day, right? I'm talking to you right now, and every now and then I look at the battery and is the computer connected, and will someone walk into my hotel room and interrupt our conversation, and right? I'm thinking about all of those things, and if some of them trigger a feeling that something's wrong, my brain will go like, Mo, feel concerned, feel worried, feel unhappy, right? And that can be summarized in a very simple equation, right? The equation is your happiness is equal to or greater than the events of your life and minus your expectations and wishes and hopes of how life should behave, right? Every single minute of your life, you look at every event and you look at how you expect that event, how it should be. And if your expectation is missed, you feel unhappy. The light is switched on, check engine.
Very good. So let's go from there. And briefly, can you tell us about how we can use our happy list so that we can help remind us to get back into that state?
So the happy list is a simple exercise, right? Just write down as many moments as you can think of that finish the sentence, I feel happy when. Right? I feel happy when, as I said, I feel happy when I have a good cup of coffee. It's a simple one. And don't lie to yourself. No one has to see your list. So write everything. I feel happy when, I'm eating chocolate, or I feel happy when he kisses me this way, or whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? Now, that happy list will give you a few learnings that are really interesting. One is you will not find on that happy list something that says, I feel happy when I win the Nobel Prize. Right? I feel happy when I get that promotion I've been waiting for, right? I feel happy when I buy a Rolls Royce. You don't get those on the list, okay? Surprisingly, what you get are very, very simple things. I feel happy when my daughter smiles. I feel happy when my dog, meets me at the door, right? And those are all moments that you can actually regenerate once a day or so, at least once a week. And so fill your life with them. And surprisingly, when we don't know the moments that make us happy, we don't actually seek them enough to make us happy. That's number one. Number two is that you will realize when you're working on your happy list that just by working on your happy list, you feel happy. It's really interesting. So thinking about the moments that make you happy, right, makes you happy. And so, when I started to work on my happy list at that time, I sort of found it as a shortcut. It's regardless of solving the equation and understanding the model and all of that, I literally started to develop my happy list in a way where it became visual. I had 19 points that were the happiest things in my life. When I say my kids smiling make me happy, I had pictures all over that point with my kids smiling. So anytime I felt unhappy, I basically took my list out, looked at it and worked on it a little bit. And that on its own, by the way, made me happy, right? And it made me happy because it also reminded me of the gratitude I needed to offer, right? Because the reality is, most of us, most of the time, even though some things annoy us, most other things are so generous to us. Like when my happy list, number 2 says, I feel happy when my kids are happy, right? And I can see so many moments of my kids feeling happy. It just anchors me back to the reality that life is okay, right? And when you feel that life is okay, you know what happens? Your equation is solved because your brain cannot lie to you anymore. When you realize that life is okay, then events are meeting expectations and you end up feeling happy.
Thank you. Let's go from there. Let's talk real briefly about our brain lying to ourselves. And there's some important states you talk about in the book. One of them is the state of confusion.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love our brains. Huh? I love my brain. I appreciate your brain. It's the reason why we're having such an intellectual conversation is because of our brains, right? Intellectual conversation, because our brains have our best interest in mind, right? They're the best tool we've ever been given, but we've never really sharpened it. We've never really trained it to behave in the way that works for us, not against us. And when we let our brains go, they unfortunately solve the happiness equation using the wrong parameters. And that's truly where happiness breaks, right? If you solve the happiness equation with the reality of the events and the reality of realistic expectations, most of the time life will be okay. But the problem is this. Remember my mother's advice? My mother's advice was, hey, Mo, run out there and be successful. And most of us, everyone who's watching this are capable people. When you're given a target, you try and go and achieve that. So what do? We prioritize success. And as we prioritize success, where do we end up? We end up successful. But we screw up our happiness on the way. And that's for a very simple reason. There are 6 grand illusions that the modern world applies on us, okay? To be able to succeed in the virtual world that we call the modern world, a world where there are no jungles and tigers anymore, right? You have to navigate those illusions in a way that makes you successful. But to be able to navigate them that way, you actually don't see them for what they really is. You see them for what the modern world is convincing you they are. And because you deal with them not for what they are, but actually as illusions, you end up unhappy. And so let me give you an example of that.
Thank you.
Yeah. We in the modern world, you and I are not being paid for carrying heavy loads anymore, right? We don't get appreciated for plowing a field, right? The physical side of humans is no longer the most valuable part of us. It's our thoughts that make us appreciated in the modern world, right? And so we glorify our thoughts. We glorify our thoughts so much that we believe in the Descartes concept of I think, therefore I am. Mm-hmm. I am my thoughts, right? And it sounds reasonable, almost like it sounded reasonable that the earth was flat at a point in time. It's like almost all evidence proves it. But the truth is this. Let me just step back a second. Let me ask everyone who's listening to us this. Your heart pumps blood around your body, right? It pumps blood around your body because it's a survival function. It needs that blood to go to every cell so that you survive, right? Do you think of yourself as blood? No, right? Your kidneys, and I apologize for the analogy here, your kidneys take toxins out of your body, mixes them with enough water to create urine. Do you think of yourself as urine? No, you don't, right? Your colon, the product of that, do you think of yourself as that? No, you don't, right? Yet, your brain produces thoughts. It's a survival mechanism, right? It's trying to make sense of the world around you. And unfortunately, because the only building block of knowledge we have since we started talking is no longer subconscious and observation, it's conscious and words, your brain has to turn what it observes into words so that you understand it, right? And so it generates thoughts so that you can make sense of the world and take the right decisions so that you survive, run away from a tiger, or deal specifically with your boss in a certain way that makes you survive at work, right? Those thoughts, however, we suddenly, unlike blood, unlike urine, unlike crap, we actually think of them as ourselves. We say, I think, therefore I am, right? The truth is, no, your brain often produces more crap than your colon. I apologize for my bad English here. And you think of whatever it's producing as yourself, right? Now, here's the funny thing. The truth is not this. The truth is I am, therefore my brain thinks, right? I am, therefore my brain is producing like a game theorist all of the possibilities I can use to navigate life safely, right? And I am not those thoughts at all. Once you see through that illusion, it is totally liberating, because suddenly, for as long as you lived believing that those thoughts were you had to listen to you. You had to obey, right? When you suddenly realize that this is just your brain as a game theorist giving you all possible ideas, you don't have to obey anymore. You don't have to associate. Sometimes you don't even have to listen, by the way, right? So for me, when I realized that, I started to treat my brain like I treat my employees, right? My brain would come up with a weird idea. It's like, the example I always use is, someone would send me an annoying email, and I'm rushing through an airport and I have to get to an aeroplane, and, I'm so stressed now. And the first idea my brain comes up with is like, she's so annoying, let's shoot her. No, hold on, brain. That doesn't make any sense. Like, thank you for considering all of the different possibilities. I don't have to obey at all. Can you come up with a better thought, right? And I do that with my employees. They would work on a business plan for a couple of weeks and then come to me, and it's not a good business plan. There is no emotion involved. I basically say, guys, thank you for the effort. Can you bring me a better plan, right? Can you work on sections A, B, and C? Right? And when you deal with your brain that way, it starts to stop. It stops bringing you ideas and thoughts that make you unhappy, and instead starts to bring you ideas that make you successful without making you unhappy.
Beautiful. Bear with me 1/4 of a second. I have a cat that's been sleeping in the studio. He has just asked, very kindly, would you please let me out of the studio?
Cat is priority. Let's take them out of the studio. I can easily imagine that I've been boring the cat to death.
Oh, like, no.
What is he talking about? Because, by the way, cats know this stuff. Cats don't think of their thoughts as themselves.
They are a lot more present-oriented and grounded.
Absolutely. So they don't suffer the illusion of time like we do, right? We always live in the past and the future. They're always living in the present moment. Yeah.
And they do also tend to have the magical ability, at least in our society, if they're indoors with us, of getting exactly what they want when they want.
Yeah. They say dogs have owners and cats have butlers. That's
yes. Pleased to meet you. I am certainly Sir Meowser's butler. So going from there, and this is a jaw-droppingly beautiful interview, I must tell you.
Oh, thank you. I hope that my radical way of looking at the topic can open others' eyes, like it opened my own eyes. When you really create that distance between your thoughts and you, something magical happens, Michael. Because I'll tell you this: it's not the events of life that make us unhappy. It's the way we think about them that make us unhappy. I always refer back to the experience when I was a car fanatic. I had a Saab 900 Turbo, and they
green,
were
a British racing green with a tan top, if I believe.
Absolutely, that's true. Yeah, that's what it was. And you have to admit, Saabs were ugly like a shoe, but they were we loved them. We loved them because they invented. Yeah, they invented turbo and they were sophisticated. And anyway, my wife takes that car out, my little toy that I cherish so much, and she has a head-on collision with a truck, right? The car is totaled. You cannot even recognize it. Every safety feature of Saab works. Nibel comes out completely without a scratch, right? So you think about the event. My car is a wreck. My wife is safe. How do I feel? I feel happy. Right? Now, here is the more interesting side of this. And at the time, I started to think back and say, okay, what if Nibel had taken that car, parked it on the side of the road, and the truck hit the car head on while Nibel was buying a Coke, right? How would I have felt? The event is the same, notice, The event hasn't changed. My car is a wreck and my wife is safe. But my brain would have told me that idiot driver, he hit my car, and I would feel miserable, right? It's the same event, but the way we think about it can make us happy or unhappy, right? You and I were planning to have this interview last Friday, and I apologize once again, my flight changed the timing and so on. And what was the conversation we had? You said, well, it gave me time to relook at my questions because I had so many of them, and it would have been an overflow in the interview. Now, the event is the same. Someone else would have said, you know what, this wasted my time, and it's the same event, but you think about it in a way that makes you happy or unhappy, right? So when you realize that, to separate yourself from your thoughts is truly the key, because then you can tell your brain how to think, because then your thoughts of the event can be tilted to your happiness, not to the criticism or the critical approach that we learned as young people, and not to the thoughts that make us miserable. And that's a massive, massive departure. Just that one illusion, when you conquer it, it changes everything.
So let's talk about your 5-year-old, a little bit more energized Zen master who taught you this when she was crying at the age of 5.
Aya was amazing. You should have seen her when she was 5. She was the cutest thing ever. And, she was passionate and energetic. And so sometimes she would cry about something, and I just don't see it. It's like, Aya, why are you crying about this? And I would try to sit down like a logical, left-brained executive and try to explain to Aya, why are you crying? You shouldn't cry about this. And here are the 4 reasons why you shouldn't cry. And one day she literally, I remember very well, she was in the back seat of our car, and I was opening the door and talking to her. And she basically raised her eyes, beautiful eyes, and said, Papa, when I'm crying, don't talk to me about the things that make me cry. And I was like, okay. She said, just tickle me. Right? And I know it sounds silly, but it's so wise, because you know what? Sometimes things that make us unhappy are either not real or unsolvable. Right? Why do we keep, dragging and thinking about them over and over and over when there is nothing we can do about them? And I told you when we started the conversation that 4 hours after we lost Ali, 4 hours, exactly 4 hours, we got a call that anchored us in the truth, right? And the truth was, we can never bring Ali back. So we got a call from the Dubai government saying we need to get to the bottom of this. Would you mind if we perform an autopsy on Ali's body? And Nibel, his mother, basically raised her head and said, would it bring Ali back? Right? And the truth hit us, really, really hit us so strongly, in a good way when you think about it, that nothing we could ever do, including closing our doors and crying for the next 25 years, is ever going to bring Ali back. You understand that? So suddenly life becomes really, really interesting, because you have one of 2 choices. One choice is, I'm going to close my door and cry for the rest of my life. It's going to make me miserable, make the people I love miserable, make my work go wrong, and it wouldn't bring Ali back, and it wouldn't make Ali any happier, right? Or I could literally realize that I cannot do anything about it. So I'm not going to kill myself with stupid thoughts that have no basis of truth and will not bring him back. Instead, I will start to think about ways where I can honor him and make life a little better. So think of it this way, again, like a video gamer. Life was here. When I hugged Ali for the last time, life was up here, right? It couldn't be better. Handsome, tall, wise, wonderful energy. It was the best moment of my life, right? Then 4 hours later, he died. Life went all the way down here, right? What do you do? Do you stay there? Do you say, okay, game over, life, you win, right? Even if you do, by the way, it's not game over. You're going to have to wake up the next day. You're going to have to eat the following day. You're going to have to go to work a week later or 2 weeks later or whatever, right? Life will have to continue. So my view was, okay, Ali left. Nothing I can do to make that go away. But I can write his model down and communicate it to the world. So tomorrow will be a little better than today. Right? Maybe 10 million people will remember him and send him a happy wish and, wish that he's happy where he is right now. And that will make after tomorrow better than tomorrow. Right? And isn't that the right way we should go through life? Right? If there is a thought that takes us over and has no impact on the real world whatsoever, but torture us, right? Why do we surrender to those thoughts? Why shouldn't we say, okay, brain, thank you for bringing it up. I know you have my best interest in mind, and losing Ali is something that shocks you to the core, right? Can you give me a better thought? Can you give me something I can act on? Can you give me something that makes things better?
So what was your way that your whole family used beginning perhaps 4 hours later, and I know if I understand right, there was a moment, kind of an aha moment in the midst of this. What was it that you began to implement or put in place to shift your mindset after this happened?
So it's not only about this situation, it's about any situation, Michael. So any situation, I think the first thing we have to do as humans is we have to acknowledge the emotion. That's the first thing, right? When you get an emotion, don't dismiss it. If your partner asks you what's wrong, don't say nothing, right? If your partner asks you what's wrong, that means there is something wrong. Your energy is not right, okay? Introspect, meditate if you want, and find out what it is. How do you feel? I feel unhappy. I feel uncomfortable. I feel, worried. I feel scared. I feel guilty. Whatever that is. Trace that back to the thought that generated it, not the event. Remember, it's not the events that make us unhappy. It's the thoughts that make us unhappy. So you could be in a taxi and the driver is rude to you. Mm-hmm. The event is that the taxi driver is rude. The thought is I was disrespected. Okay. Now that is the thought does not always relate to the event. And then ask yourself this question: is that thought true? Okay. Is it true that I was disrespected? Does this taxi driver even know me? Know anything about me to respect me or disrespect me? Right? If it is true, then act upon it if you can. Right? If it isn't, then dismiss it because it's not true. It's just causing you. The thought I should have driven Ali to a different hospital is not a true thought. I drove Ali to the closest hospital because he was in pain, right? Any father would do that. There was no data at my disposal that would have, triggered me to drive him to a different hospital. So you have a thought. If it's true, you act upon it. If it is false, you drop it. But what if it's true and you cannot act upon it? What if it's true and there is nothing you can do about it, right? Here is a thought. I will never be able to hug my wonderful son again, right? It is a true thought. What can I do about this, brain? Why are we even talking about it? Can I cherish my son and hug him differently? Can you give me a different way of doing this, right? And suddenly, by the way, these are survival machines. They're supposed to give you the negative. Suddenly, you corner your brain and say, work with me here. Work with me. We're trying to get things done here. Mm-hmm. Is there a way where we can make this better? Your brain responds every single time. Every time you told your brain to raise your left hand, it raised your left hand. It never, ever told you, no, I'm going to scratch my right ear. It doesn't do that, right? We just have to become the boss. We have to be the one that tells our brain what to do. You're given a tool. You use the tool. And so I know it sounds almost unfeeling. No, hold on. I cry every time I remember that I'm not going to hold Ali again, right? But I cannot do anything with this, right? So as Aya said, tickle me, right? Find a different thought that makes the world a better place. That's what it's all about.
Woohoo!
I got 4 hoo-hoos today.
I like it. So before we jump into a brief wrap-up, and we're going a little bit long, I hope that's all right with you. This is just amazing. Absolutely. Everybody, by the way, go out, get Solve for Happy, get everybody else who you know to get Solve for Happy as well, and then get them to get Solve for Happy as well. On that note, it feels important that we talk just briefly a little bit here about death.
Yeah.
Which is such a beautiful, if we can say, teacher. And before we started, we were talking about, I mentioned briefly, that we had both kind of been down the rabbit hole a little bit. Mm. And so maybe you can share real briefly, if you'd like, about your near-death experience or what you think Ali would think about death.
I think if you so there are the spiritual elements of death, right? And there are the scientific elements of death, and I discuss the scientific elements in detail in Solve for Happy. And in reality, if you truly understand how the Big Bang works, and you combine that with a little bit of quantum physics and understanding the uncertainty principle and so on, you will absolutely understand that life existed before the physical. There is no way we can take it any other way. If you understand the theory of relativity reasonably well and understand that there is no before and after, that Ali could not be born before I was born because there is really no time in space-time, you would realize that life existed before the physical, right? And after the physical. But that's the deep scientific element of it. There is the connected spiritual element of it, where you feel that there is more to you than this physical form, and accordingly, when the physical form decays, the rest of the real you remains. But also that's, a little difficult sometimes to grasp. I go back to my video game analogy, right? And in my video game analogy, me and Ali, we had, I'm spoiled. So I had this large screen TV and a surround sound system, right? And, we would switch off the light. It would be a dark room completely. And the only thing you can see in that room is that, game happening on the screen. And that avatar on the screen, you really connect to it. Ali used his avatar almost as if it's his own feet and his own eyes. I had to make sense of the game world a little bit. I have an old brain. He was born into that game world, right? He would run as if he's really running, right? But the avatar was never him, right? The avatar that he played, Master Chief in Halo, for example, was never really Ali. Ali was sitting right next to me on the sofa, right? And life in the game would run. So in the game, you would end up, being battered and shot at and stepped upon and, falling in lava. And all of that feels, incredibly painful and torturous, right? But it's only the avatar. When Ali left our world, in my personal view, it's basically, he found a shortcut, right? We're all going to get to the end of the level. We all are going to get to the end of the level. Don't fool yourself. Death is part of life, right? But when we get to the end of the level, right, we go through a little portal, and there is something on the other side. Whatever it is, is not the topic of today. My tendency is that, like real gamers, when you achieve the level purpose, when you actually get to the point where you figure the level out, you sometimes run to a tree or a wall or something. They call them cheats, right? And you go through that cheat, and you end up at the next level without having to run through the rest of the game environment. And I believe that Ali found a cheat. Ali came here, he taught us, he made us love him. And by finding a cheat and leaving early, he got us so excited about communicating his message to the rest of the world, right? And so he literally put his controller down and said, Papa, I'm going to wait for you here. That's how it is. There is no other way you can look at it. And when you think of it this way, you realize something really interesting. Death is not the opposite of life. Death truly is the opposite of birth. We come to this level of the game through a portal we call birth, and we come out of this level of the game through a portal we call death, right? Life exists before and after. Life has nothing to do with this physical layer of the game that we live in right now. Life is much bigger than that.
Thank you. You keep saying portal, and I'm starting to get tears in my eyes because of the lyrics that you shared to a game song, to the game Portal.
Yeah. Again, one of the unusual things that Ali sort of left before he left to make us deal with losing him somehow was a wonderful game that he insisted that I play. And when I refused to play it because it was a PC, not a console game, he literally installed it himself. And the game truly is about shooting a gun that shoots a portal. So you aim it at a wall, and you make 2 holes in different walls, and it would give you a portal that runs between them. And the song, the song that ends the game when the credits are coming is truly the song that completely helped me find my peace at the end of my journey with losing Ali, if you want, because it basically is a song that talks. I mean, listeners should listen to it. It's called "Still Alive," and "Still Alive" of the game Portal, I think, is is an incredible description of how, we just play through this game, through this level, and that this is not the end, that we're still alive. We will always be alive.
I got to give that another woohoo.
Yeah, I find that unfortunately too emotional for a woohoo. I mean, this song just rang in my head for days and days and days after Ali left, and it just was so much peace when I found it. But again, forget the songs and the emotions, and I know some people will not appreciate that, and that's fine, right? The truth is not very hard to find, and the truth in science, if you actually look at it in depth, is that this cannot be it. This is just the avatar on the big screen TV.
Thank you. So let's dive into a few quick wrap-up questions. First on, I want to throw on my coach's hat. And I always love to give people homework. What one homework? It's useless for them to listen to this like it's chewing gum, like it's candy, and then not actually do something with it.
Okay,
so,
I'll give you two homeworks. One is prepare your happy list. Invest in your happy list very, very heavily. I feel happy when, and write down as many thoughts as you can, and ponder it, think about it, appreciate it, have gratitude for it, and look at it once a day from now on, because this is going to make you happy. The second is, the next time you get that emotion, trace it to the thought. When you find the thought, tell your brain to bring you a better thought. Literally, it's as simple as that. Like you're talking to a 6-year-old. Tell your brain, hey, I listened to what you just said. It didn't make me happy. Okay? I recognize you have my best interest in mind. Thank you, brain. Can you bring me a better thought? It's going to bring you another bad thought. So you say, no, I said better. I said, bring me a thought that makes me happy. On the third or fourth attempts, it's going to go like, okay, here is a happy thought for you, right? Truly, it's not that difficult. We do that all the time at work. Right? When we're presented with something that we don't think is right, we go and search. We talk to people. We ask people to speak to us differently. Bring me a better thought. Bring me a better thought will make a big difference.
I love it. I think it's called Life is Beautiful, the movie.
Oh, I love the movie. I love that movie. Yeah.
And can you picture him with his white gloves on, carrying a silver tray? At one point, he's got a dog in his hand. but asking this gentleman, this impeccable waiter with quite the sense of humor and extremely sharp, can you come back with a different thought? No. Can you come back again with a different thought?
Absolutely. I Brian, I call the butler. So it's come back with a better thought. Really, I mean, there is, especially if the thought that's torturing you does not make any difference to the real world. Doesn't make any difference. Doesn't change anything. Doesn't make anything better.
Beautiful. So what advice, Jessica, my wife, she's the producer. She always wants me to ask a question for parents and kids. What advice would you give parents today? Oh,
it's very straightforward. Your kids are never, ever, 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 ever going to listen to what you tell them. So stop telling them things, right? Your kids are going to be exactly like you are. So you want your kids to be happy, you be happy, right? You want your kids to stop thinking negative thoughts, stop thinking negative thoughts. You want your kids to stop being control freaks, you stop being a control freak. Just be the change that you want them to be.
Awesome. From there, where can people go to find your beautiful book, Solve for Happy, and can you tell us more about the mission?
Yeah, so Solve for Happy is everywhere. It's on Amazon, iTunes, Google Play, and on all big, bookstores wherever you are in the world. www.solveforhappy.com has all the links that you need. Facebook.com/solveforhappy has all of the new events and the social connection. YouTube.com/solveforhappy has all of the videos and talks, including hopefully this talk. And the thing, however, is that this is not about you becoming happy, every one of us, okay? Although, of course, we want this, because as we rightly said, we can only be the change that we want to see in the world. But here's the idea. I set myself a target to make 10 million happy people. When I started to work on Solve for Happy, the feedback and the change I have seen in the communities I went to is tremendous. Like, seriously, I actually have hope that we can make the world a better place. Okay, but I cannot do this alone. So I'm asking every single person who's watching to learn how to be happy. So help yourself first. Use my model or any model, it doesn't matter. But pay it forward, please. If I told you anything in this podcast that made you happy, tell 2 people about it and make them promise that they'll tell 2 people about it. Okay? Only then will we reach not 10 million, but 100 million, a billion. Maybe we'll change the world together. But more importantly, think of it this way. I took a quota of 10 million. Can you take 1,000? Can you take, if you're a CEO of a company that has 70,000 employees, can you take 70,000? If you're, a political leader that is, influencing a party, can you take the party, right? Or can you take 5 people, your sister, your mother-in-law, that's a tough one, your mother, whatever that is, can you take your best friend? Can we assign ourselves a target? Not only for us to be happy, but to surround ourselves with people that are also happy, and together we can make 1 billion people happy. I think that would be amazing. I really think it would be amazing.
Tears again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for having me. This has been an incredible conversation. I really don't know how to thank you, Michael. Thanks so much.
It has been absolutely amazing. You've said so much today. Do you have any last words of wisdom, nuggets you want to impart upon people or gift to people?
I just want to leave people with one thing, if I can. It's, surprisingly, happiness is not that mystical. Okay? It's just like going to the gym. Really, it is that simple. Right? You have to set yourself the target of being fit. Prioritize your happiness above everything else. Right? Then work for it. Work for it. Go to the gym 5 times a week. That's what it takes. Right? Work for it. Find out which illusions are impacting you and fix them. It's going to take years of unlearning. But just like going to the gym, the first time is hard. The second time is easier. The 10th time, you cannot live without it. And then it becomes second nature. So please, 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 solve for happy. I mean that in the title. You solve for happy and then everything else will follow, right? Solve for happy and then you'll be successful. Solve for happy, then you'll be productive. You'll be loved. You'll be appreciated. That all comes as a result. So do it for yourself and do it for others. Please pay it forward. Let's make the world a better place. Thank you for that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's not a big enough word.
This is good enough. I feel your energy from here, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mo. For everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get solve for happy, and engineer your own path to joy, and shine bright. Woohoo! Woohoo! This was awesome, Mo.
It was amazing. I don't know how to thank you. Seriously, it's an amazing, amazing conversation. And I mean it when I say I feel your energy from here.
Oh, thank you. It so goes both ways.
Yeah. So let's do this. If listeners or watcher, audiences say they want to know more, let's go back and do more.
I would absolutely love it. And there's there's so much more we can cover. And I didn't go into your formula or anything. So
I wanna give away the whole book. Right. So I seriously don't care if I sell books. So let's wait. If we hear that people like it, we managed to organize this one in 3 days, so we could probably organize the next one soon. So
absolutely,
you're the man. Thanks so much, Michael. We'll stay in touch.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like below. Also, leave your comments. Have some real fun with it. Subscribe to our channel where you're going to get more great videos, more interviews coming up. And check out our website, inspirenationshow.com. That's where you'll find tips, blogs, information, videos you won't find anywhere else, and useful and helpful resources to really help you kickstart your life and to shine bright. Thanks so much again. Thank you for your support. Like, comment, subscribe. See the website. Thanks so much and have fun. Of course, shine bright. Woohoo!